Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot. Oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only Supernatural Girls.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girls. Mm-hmm. I'm your host, Patricia Baker, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, all the way from Tucson, Patricia Kirkman. Miss PK, how are you tonight?
Wonderful. It's just been such a lovely day out, nice and warm on the back patio, sunshine. I know, and I see what you're getting, and sorry, kiddo.
I'm going to move in with you. I hope you don't mind. Just for
I'll come get you.
I want to ask everybody to please make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Please
we are
do.
also on TikTok.
I finally learned how to do it. Whee!
Yeah, we've got a lot of new stuff coming, and we really love to interact with our people here. So thank you for joining us tonight. As you know, we have a terrific guest. We love having Corey on our show. He always has the best information. We're excited to hear what he has to say about the GATE program and non-human intelligence. I cannot wait. So tell us about the numbers. What are we in for? Well,
I'm going to put everything on hold because I'd rather we deal with Corey tonight. Because next time we're on, I'll be giving you a spiel about where we're going.
Okay, that's right, because we're coming into a new year.
Yes, we are.
Boy,
all right. Like it or not. It's going to be better, I will say that. Okay.
Oh, good. Okay, well, that's encouraging.
Yes,
Thank
it
you
is.
For that.
Everything's going forward. So now we can enjoy tonight's show because that's going to make us all feel better.
It will. It will. Well, let me tell everybody about Corey who may not know who Corey is. He is an insider, a contactee, an experiencer, and a writer-producer known for his real-world testimony about multidimensional contact and advanced technologies. He is the co-founder of Disclosure Media. He develops films, games, and graphic novels that deliver transcendental storytelling designed to awaken consciousness and inspire transformation. Now, Corey has an amazing amount of media coming out. He has Beyond Disclosure, the Corey Goode Files. That is now available to rent or buy on Amazon Prime. And all of these links are listed in the description for everybody. And he has an original graphic novel that is now available on Webtoons and a new TV series. Has he been busy or what? It makes me feel lazy, I got to tell you. New TV series.
Lazy compared to what he does.
No, really, called Contacted. And Corey just spent some time in Calgary with Polyscope Productions, filming this series. So they are all looking forward to the release this spring, as we are as well. So, Corey, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's been a little bit.
I know. It's great to have you back, and all of your fabulous projects. We can't wait to see them. But we wanted to start tonight with some very interesting information that you have about the GATE project. So is it okay if we start there?
Sure, wherever you would like.
Okay. What is the GATE project?
Well, I had been trying to remember the name of the project, when we were on Cosmic Disclosure and doing my, 2 documentaries, Above Majestic and The Cosmic Secret. I never had the full memory of the name of that program. And then my daughter, just maybe 5 or 6 months ago, she said, "Dad, look what I found online." It was on TikTok. She sent it to me, and it was about the GATE program. And it showed some of the headphones that you wore, and they played one of the hypnotic meditation tapes that they played for us. And I just started having all of these memories. So I've been working on doing all of these projects and not really diving into the testimony and all of that, just, being grounded. And then I'm hit with all of these memories, flashback, and I haven't had that happen in some time. My family were watching me. I got up and I started pacing around and I started remembering thing after thing. And we started looking it up and we were finding a bunch of it online. And what it was originally, what the GATE program was, is that they identified children who had abilities. And a lot of the times what they would do is they would find these abilities in kids that had, autism, different types of, that's on the spectrum of autism. And, most recently we've heard about the telepathy tapes and the nonverbal children. And the founder of that recently came out and said that her organization was infiltrated by the CIA, and she outed who it was. So the government's very, very interested in children with abilities because they can exploit us.
Well, that's how they came to you. I mean, they thought you were one of them, and so they started working with you pretty early on. Yeah.
And then, my family recognizes the GATE project. I guess it was kind of a common thing around then. Mm-hmm. So that was a big revelation, to me. And, it identifies children that have these abilities, and it's kind of the front as the children are brought into other programs. I was brought into Project Moonshadow. Other kids were brought into other projects, but kind of the front was the GATE project.
But did your parents know what was going on? I mean, did your parents know what was behind the GATE? You were really being groomed for?
No one did. Yeah, these projects were one thing on their face, but they were totally something totally different in the background.
Oh. And I've heard from other people talking about something very similar, how they were taken out of class and put into different situations. And some of them, their parents were in the military and they did know what was going on. And it created, as they grew up, a lot of rage because they felt that they had been used and abused by their own family members. So this could be pretty dicey stuff that they were bringing children into. What kinds of things were they doing with children?
They were using children to, remote view, gather intelligence from different countries, from non-human intelligence, whether it be actual ETs that interlope into our solar system or other dimensional beings. They are used to not only sort of detect them and try to figure out what they're doing, but in some cases actually interface and communicate with the non-human intelligence. Mm-hmm. So they use them for a lot of different things.
And that could be pretty destabilizing, I would say, to a child. I mean,
it is. What they normally do is they pick children who are from rougher kind of backgrounds. They're a little bit more resilient. It's usually the children, and I can maybe send it to you at some point. I have sort of a list of characteristics of children in the GATE program. Usually the parent nearly lost them, had a rough pregnancy. The kids have traumatic childhoods and backgrounds, and it's the trauma that and crazy family life that sort of programs children. Mm-hmm. One of the things that people have noticed the most about me is I'm very stoic. Mm-hmm. If you're sitting across talking to me, no matter if you're threatening me or if you're telling me an emotional story, I'm usually deadpan. Mm-hmm. And it's because I grew up in a very manipulative environment and you didn't want to give anyone anything to work with. Mm-hmm. So that type of thing develops and it just makes your brain your brain becomes wired differently, and you're in an environment where you're always trying to read. If one of the parents or one of the family members acts up or has rage issues, you're always watching, trying to stay one step ahead, and it helps you develop more intuitively. So, and you're used to being smacked around and being in rough situations, and you don't just collapse emotionally. So they pick kids with a certain background and disposition.
Mm-hmm. And then they use them for different purposes, as you mentioned, whether it's remote viewing or interfacing with interdimensionals or ETs. And how long does this last? Does this go all the way up to their adulthood or not?
I think it's different with everyone, but it can potentially go. With me, it went all the way up until I was about 17 in school. Mm-hmm. And after that, I think you're just under observation, and they will come and utilize you as an asset if they need you. But they usually utilize young children because their psychic abilities are so much more on par. They haven't gone through life and been told all of these things are not possible. They haven't been
right.
They haven't been shunned and called a weirdo and all of these things that older people, develop. The insecurities we develop. Our insecurities as we get older affect our abilities. So the children, they're able to groom them, and they're just more open. They don't have all of these mental barriers around what is possible.
Sure. Yes. And is there like a support group for these children that survive this?
I would imagine there is. One of the things that I've seen kicked around, and I talked about this nearly a decade ago, that this would happen, is that the corporate conglomerates that control all of the information and technology are going to say, we're not going to release anything until you give us amnesty, truth and reconciliation type of situation, where you give us amnesty and we'll tell you everything. Mm-hmm. But those of us who are in these different programs, who our lives were made hell, experiments were done, and just bad stuff happened. Mm-hmm. Electric shock therapy on kids, a lot of things. And those of us who have memories of going through that are not at all happy with the idea of these people getting clemency, because this is like Nazi kind of stuff.
Oh, God.
That's what it sounds like. Mm-hmm. Exactly that is. It's terrifying.
Yeah, well, that's where it came from. The MK, is mind control. That's, German. That's where a lot of these programs branch off from. And
so they came from where? Project Paperclip? When we brought those scientists?
Yeah, when we brought them. We were already doing our own mind control stuff. We had, I can't remember their names, but one of the people who developed Scientology and a couple others were working on mind control and understanding how the mind worked and stimulating it to behave in a certain way. There was already a lot of that, that was older work that they were using, that the U.S. had done, but the Germans had really taken it to the next level, because they just were very psychopathic in their approach.
Yes, agreed.
Corey, how does this affect you with raising your children?
Good question.
It turns, I learned the term helicopter parent very early after having, my daughter. Especially in school, not very trusting, was trying to make sure that she didn't get pulled into any programs. My son has gone to a special school, to where we're able to monitor that more, but he's transitioning to to a public school now. So it's, there's not a lot of trust in the system.
Oh, I could understand why.
Yes.
Do you feel that that's given you a closer bond with your children because you're more on hand, shall we say?
Yeah, it definitely, when the Polyscope Productions, when they came out to do our documentary, or we went out to Isetti Ranch in 2024 in like June, and they met my family for the first time. And that's one of the things they remarked on, is that we're one of the closest families they've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And, it's a whole lot. We had all sorts of, kind of what they talk about with the hitchhiker effect. We had shadow beings invading our home, demonic beings, light orbs of different colors coming into our home, floating around, flying through the walls. My family was all experiencing. There were abductions that we talk about in the documentary that were, very, traumatizing. So we've had a lot of trauma bonding. We've had stalkers, death threats. This UFO disclosure community is every bit as crazy as you could imagine. And the stories we have are just so crazy and over the top. And most people, if they had one story like that, they would tell it over and over for the rest of their life. We have so many. We've forgotten more of crazy stories than happen to most people in their lifetime. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do a show about that as well.
Wow.
Good. I think that's great.
Yes, we all need to hear this.
Yes.
There is so much going on, and I'm glad you talked about the UFO community being a bit on the crazy side. But I do think, tell us what you think, if you agree with this, but it appears that it's been so infiltrated by people from these black ops situations. The CIA, all the alphabet agencies have their own agendas with this. So it's hard to know who's who and who to trust and who to...
It's worse than most people realize. You notice after, like, David and Wilcock and I and other people, we kind of fell into the background, like we said would happen on our television show. All of these whistleblowers started coming out, people like Lou Elizondo. And, Lou worked for CIFA, which is a counterintelligence foreign adversaries group. And CIFA has been responsible for destroying so many people in the UFO community.
No kidding.
And now he, and there's a few other people also that were allegedly a part of this. And now they're out being the face of disclosure. Huh. And on top of that, you may notice that over the last 2 years, especially, out of nowhere, we've had about a dozen podcasters pop up, and all of a sudden they have 1 million subscribers. They have access to all of the key whistleblowers and people within ufology. It's all very manufactured and created. These people are put there by the federal government and by some of these corporate entities, and they're there to make sure they control the narrative. And right now, good luck trying to figure out who's who in the zoo.
Oh, that is scary.
Right. It's a shame because there is so much exciting thing and exciting adventures and things like that happening with people making contact. But there's this, this whole negative, dark side to it where control is the issue. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. It's always about control. And how is it going to keep their finger on the power button? Mm-hmm. What happens if all of us have our own friendships with interdimensionals, ETs, and our own support groups, and our own, whatever you want to call it, our own communities? Mm-hmm. They don't want that. And I think that's why they're trying to blow apart the whole UFO community. Same thing.
Well, there's a number of reasons they don't want it. And excuse me. Mm-hmm. There are so many people within these programs that have access to the one file cabinet with all the data that we would like to have access to. Right. And we think there's someone who knows the truth and they're just keeping it from us. Mm-hmm. But there's not. There's like 4 or 5 different groups that all have their own almost religious, dogmatic ideas about what is in that cabinet, and none of them agree. So the top people who are looking at the information all have different ideas about what it is they're looking at. What does that really say about reality in general?
Yes.
Is there a truth to be found, that we can understand? There's a whole faction that is really freaking out that more and more people are going out and summoning orbs in the sky. They believe that, this is the faction of the insiders that believe we're dealing mostly with angels and demons. Mm-hmm. And they think that these fallen angels are slowly tricking us into helping them return back to wherever they were kicked out from. And that, they're they're playing the long game. They're very sneaky and know how to manipulate us, what we see, what we feel, to a point to where we can't really discern what the good and bad is. So honestly, the average person, you cannot. I'm sorry. The dark evil ones can appear and make you cry tears of pure love and joy and make you see them however they like. And you have that experience, but it was from a trickster type of being. And, all of us are, absolutely sure that we can discern which is which. And I've had interaction with all sorts of these interdimensional and non-human intelligence beings. And I'm to a point to where I know it's arrogant of me to say that I can fully discern what was good, what is evil, what is tricksterish, because it can control our reality and perception to a point to where we're really just fooling ourselves. So that's the to where a lot of the people don't want us interacting with it for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I understand that too. Now, tell our audience, if you would, and this is a tough question, but what is the difference between an extraterrestrial and interdimensional? How do you separate that?
Yeah, it is a little difficult. Really, what we're interacting with very rarely is it extraterrestrial, another planet within our reality and universe. Most of what we're dealing with, they're coming from other realms or dimensions. And, a lot of them are on in a almost identical solar system as ours. That's where they inhabit, but it's in another dimension that's that ours kind of, they kind of pass through each other. And through different energetic places on the planet, there are areas to where you can break through to the other dimensions. There are weird places, depending on solar and star alignments, that activate. And that's where, strange beings from other dimensions will wander through and roam, our forests or national parks. Right. There are a lot of these regions that are being watched very closely. We have equipment monitoring and have park rangers. Some of the park rangers are actually like former Delta Force and SEAL type people who are put in ranger uniforms, and they patrol certain areas that they know are inhabited by NHI or are these energetic zones that kind of open up to different dimensions from time to time.
Yeah, that's very fascinating. These portals. We've had Patrice Chaplin on the show, and she wrote a book about portals and other things. But she actually got a phone call from NASA, and they wanted to know if she knew where the artificial portals were, the man-made portals were, because they wanted to close them down because things were coming through that they didn't want through. And she explained to them she didn't know where the artificial portals were. She did know where the natural ones were, but not the artificial ones. But I thought that was an interesting conversation with NASA about portals.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there are all sorts of different realms. There's also, kind of the realm of the afterlife, or the spirit realm. At one time, humanity, we walked with a foot in each world, and they've proven now, and it's coming out more and more, that people of a certain who have a certain brain physiology and certain genetics have the ability to have these experiences and interact with non-human intelligence. About 60% of us out there have the physiology in our brain and the genetics that allow us to interact and have experiences with the phenomenon and psychic abilities and all sorts of things, while there's 40% who have a completely different experience than the rest of us. They do not experience any of the spiritual and interaction, activation, and the phenomena itself. So these are some of the biggest skeptics out there.
Right.
They just do not have the ability to interact with the phenomenon.
Well, let's have some fun. And I want to put up, Bill, if you would, please, for us, put up the interdimensional ET pictures that we took. That's the commander. That's one of the entities that we encountered, and that's a photograph that we took. And no, it's not photoshopped. I'm not smart enough to do that kind of thing. So, here's another picture. You can see a dog, a little dog face.
Mm-hmm.
That is a dog I used to have years ago, passed away. And right below that, you see a big ET face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Photograph that we took. And then there's this one, which I think is an interdimensional. And that face is right next to my face.
Yeah.
Now, none of these things I saw with my naked eye. These things came out on the camera.
Yeah.
So, the camera.
Most of what we're dealing with are these ultra-terrestrial, interdimensional intelligences. They're more thought forms than they are anything else, and they appear to each of us a little differently. The interesting thing about this phenomenon is that the government is studying a lot of families like mine very publicly with Chris Bledsoe and his family.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But all of the other people I know who are in this study have signed NDAs. They can't go public, but they have in their attics, they have equipment set up to measure all sorts of environmental things, that occur around their home. They come and interview the family and the children every once in a while. They have cameras set up, and they're studying the people who are interacting with this phenomenon. They wanted to do MRIs on my family. They wanted to invade our home as well. We told them no. But there are a lot of families out there who can walk outside and summon a orb, or or they're interacting with some sort of non-human intelligence and having all of the side effects like my family did, the shadow beings, the orbs. It's like when you have interaction with this non-human intelligence, there's things that seem to be bleeding in from other dimensions that aren't directly related to that NHI. We even have had ghosts of people who have passed away. It draws their attention too. So it's like a multi-layered onion, what is happening. And if you want it to be one thing that you can just pick up and say, that's it, finally I know. I'm sorry. A lot.
It's not that. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, there's so much going on. It's not a surprise that they haven't figured that out and know how to encapsulate it in any way, because it can't be. It's so vast.
Mm-hmm.
It's a vast universe of consciousness. So,
yes.
But this is what troubles me. And I know, PK, you feel the same way. It's like hearing all of this. The government wants to learn and study and come to your house and take MRIs and do whatever. There is such a difference between that, which is then held in secrecy, and something like the telepathy tapes, which everybody can listen to the telepathy tapes, can learn from this about autistic children and where they all go to meet, which was such a fascinating conversation. And having these children communicate in ways they had never been able to communicate before about what they are experiencing. It was enlightening. It was an open-hearted experience. It was wonderful. But then this stuff with the government is just, I don't even want to say it. It's just so dark and manipulative and self-serving.
Well, the thing is,
to help us.
These people that are in the programs and working with the families, they are the most charismatic people you ever meet. They go to these people's, to the kids' baseball games. They'll go to a recital. They become very, very close with the family. And it's all a part of it. And these people, when your family goes through like what my family went through, your family's experience is so different than any other family you could deal with. I mean, there's just there's no point of meeting in the middle. It's such a different, life. And then when people come in and they start love bombing you, I understand what you're going through and I believe you and I'm going to help prove it. And, all your family that thought you were crazy, one of these days when the study's over, you'll be able to show them all of this. And they suck the people in, they suck the families in, each and every one of them.
That's awesome.
It's scary.
Want to believe. That's the scary part. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody that's in the comment section just said how insincere, and that truly, thank you for saying that. It's true. Very insincere. And again, it's the same energy that they go about supposedly investigating UFOs. I mean, we've heard about, they're admitting that they're ships in the sky. Yeah. So what? I mean, we've seen them. We know they're in the sky. Now what? Can we talk about who's piloting these spaceships? And no, they don't want to talk about that.
Secret.
Yeah, they don't want to talk about the people that have had experience like you and Betty and Bob and Carl Higdon. They don't want to talk about that. So everybody should know this is just a big ruse on their part to keep talking about the same old thing, the lights in the sky.
And it has a lot of consequences. You look at in the contactee community, all of the lore that has built up over the decades, all of the different UFO religions. People are like, it's not a religion. Bullshit. It's a religion. Shut up. You're just as dogmatic about your truth as any religion I've ever seen. So, but that's human nature. We're not being given all of the information, and there are people that are having real contact. There are people that are not, and they're out there just BSing. There's all sorts of things where mentally ill people who are having mentally ill episodes, and all of it's coming together, and it's created a lot of confusion. All of the lore out there about galactic federations and all of these different wars and different galaxies and stuff.
It's hard to believe when you have so much coming. It's almost like everybody throws it up in the air, wherever it falls. Oh, that's the one.
Yeah, and it's so
we're not being given information. So we're doing the best we can, and humans being humans, we turn it into a religion. We say it's not. We call it a truth or whatever, but it's our dogma. And the same thing happens in the programs. All of the guys that control the information, they're just as dogmatic and have all of their own religious, stupid little twisted belief systems.
Right.
And they all think that they're right about this phenomenon. And so no one knows. I mean, it's
right. Well, and there's been a lot said about if the truth were told, which we know we're never going to hear it from the government, but if the truth was told that it would destroy religion as we know it. We've heard that a bunch of times. And we've heard that about Jimmy Carter, that when he was as a president, when he was briefed, that he went into his office and sobbed for an hour.
Well,
And because he's a very religious man too. So you could think, why? Yeah, he would sob if he heard that information.
that's just part of the scenario. There are at least 3 universities that are working with the government people that I mentioned and studying all of these families. Mm-hmm. And one thing that they have learned is that the people in these universities, they've studied how the NHI has created religions over millennia with us. And the last time it happened, they said around the 1800s, and they've had to always study it in the past. But now, in real time, they are studying this non-human intelligence is creating a new esoteric one world religion that will plug into everybody's root religion.
Interesting.
It's creating a like a one world religion. And I feel like I was being drug into that a bit when I was in communication. Mm-hmm. You know, this, they see it's building towards something. It's trying to create, you know, the next belief system. And they're studying that in real time, and they are fascinated.
Yeah, that is something big, very big.
Amazing.
It takes it to a whole other level.
Yeah,
for sure. Mm-hmm. None of this is anything. Everyone in the community, they have all of these different ideas. They've bought into all of these different scenarios, you know, galactic federations, all, you know, whatever their thing is. And it's none of that. Right. And it's more fascinating than any of the crazy crap that we've come up with. The truth. It is fascinating. It is mind-boggling. It is amazing. But there's also a very, you know, scary side of it.
Yep. Do you worry about the effect on your children?
Yeah, I mean that's you know, we cover that in the documentary that just came out, and yeah, it's had a pretty crazy effect, you know, on my family. Like I have said in other interviews recently, my family and we started going to church again. You know, because we had like literal demonic beings coming in our home, and you know, the salt around the perimeter and smudging wasn't working anymore. It worked for a few days. So we had some run-ins with some very dark entities that are part of this phenomenon. So it's had a huge effect on my family.
Very tough to deal with, but your children are probably very resilient by now. So.
They are, but you know, I've talked to a few researchers, and you know, we're doing television shows, talked to producers, and you know, they're the type to where they're still like, you know, I heard a weird noise, and then my family had this other synchronicity, so we think this might be real. And you know, there's none of that with my family. We don't have that luxury. We live in a different reality than everyone else. We know 100% that, you know, the afterlife, we've interacted with spirits, we've been abducted, we've had experiences with multiple layers of this phenomenon, and it is a part of our reality. And we just kind of, when, you know, people are all talking about could be, might be, we're just like people look at their grandchildren, you know, we have such a different experience, and we have a wide understanding now about interacting with it, the pitfalls, you know, how, you know, it entices you and draws you in with mystery and curiosity, and it will fulfill little, you know, it'll fill in little pieces of interesting information and draw you further and further into one direction. And before you know it, you're on a different path. So, yeah, this phenomenon is very interesting, and it's way more than what anyone in this community has postulated. It has to do with consciousness itself, you know, the creation of reality. It is far, far bigger than our minds can picture right now.
Yes, I agree. It is definitely, and it's now. Let me ask you a question about abductions and abductees, because as you know, and I know, and PK, you know too, the government has been very, very invasive about that, and has in fact killed people, has in fact broken into people's homes, interrupted their lives, tracked them with black helicopters, bugged their phones, things like that.
Little things.
Yeah, small things like that. Really upsetting. And we were discussing the whole issue of accountability, because they really did cause a lot of damage. I mean, look, they broke into my house when I was working on the Betty Andreasen investigation, and they drugged me in my home, which I really did not appreciate. And there's no restitution for that. Mm-mm. Yep. But it's come into our view that is one of the big reasons why the government does not want to tell the whole truth about this and what they've been doing to their own citizens over this whole situation with UFOs.
Yeah, it's a very dark chapter of our country and humanity. They've tortured children. They have been in situations to where they know people are going to be abducted, and instead of intervening, they sit back and study it. You know, they've been the abduction side of things. They've been tracking for a long period. It's one of the darkest parts of, one of the parts of this story is that whatever from this other realm, it is able to manifest into ours, like you spawn into a video game. It's just there, like a living being. And that living being can be in our reality for a certain period of time and interact with us, but to remain in our reality or in our dimension, they have a practice of consuming blood plasma from humans and cattle. Cattle blood, human blood.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep. And they find there's human mutilations too. A lot of people are abducted and they're dropped off in these national parks, and these rangers who are really former Navy SEALs and agents and all of that are documenting and collecting the remains, because these bodies are being dropped from thousands of feet in the air but they're always, they call them drop zones. It's always this one area where they're finding cattle and humans that are, it's like almost like a boneyard where they drop the bodies. So this is something that they know about. It's very disturbing, that these beings are, and that could go back. This has been happening for thousands of years. That could be behind some of the stories about vampires and werewolves and that sort of thing. But, it's real dark stuff. There's something about the blood plasma that allows them to stay manifested and in our reality and continue to interact with us.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about these national parks, and Dave Paulides has done a lot of work on that. Very good work bringing that out in the open with his Missing 411 series, books and films. And it is troubling, to say the least. But it all started a long time ago. Now, how do you feel about Eisenhower? Is he the one that signed the first agreement to let ETs take citizens? Because that's one of the things about.
To be honest, it was all a big ruse, a big game.
Which part?
The Roosevelt, the deal he thought he was making,
right?
He was shaking hands with puppets and androids and that sort of thing. When the higher intelligence that's controlling everything, he wasn't really interacting with. And these little puppets that came down to interact with him deceived him, and there was no real, we could have gone for another 1,000 years without them coming down and interacting with us like that. It was only reason they did is because they had an agenda, and they wanted to start interacting with the government and our ability to create technology. They had a plan, and it was a Trojan horse plan to get into the government and to get behind our development of technology. So we still don't know why it helped us in certain ways, but it did. And that is something that's aiding their agenda that we don't fully understand.
Because there's a lot of talk about Eisenhower signing over us, people, to them, and then trying to put limits on it, which was impossible. So saying you could take this many people, but you have to bring them back. And of course, well, how are they going to do anything about that? The technology of the ETs far superseded ours. It did then, it does now. So the agreement was a farce, basically. It was maybe something to calm President Eisenhower's mind, but it just allowed them entry in some legal format to take us and do whatever they wanted, which, again, there's no accountability here for any of this.
And it has to do, they really, for this dark force to be able to do things openly, it needed to make a deal with us. Yeah. So we had to make a deal with the devil, for the devil to come out and openly work with us. Even though, it's appearing in different ways. But there's a whole agenda that we don't fully understand. We think we're benefiting from technology and we're having a little bit of a say in what is happening, but it's all a ruse.
Well, we've heard some positive stories that have come in about Valiant Thor, for example, and other entities who are truly here to help, so we're told. And they sound quite believable, and they're very encouraging. I'm happy to hear a few positive stories. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, there's definitely a positive side to what we're dealing with. I was interacting with very angelic, galactic beings, the blue avians. But like I said, the dark side, when they see you're connecting with the positive, the dark side rushes in and does whatever it can cause confusion and chaos. And once that happens, it's really a dodgy game, So it's great to hear the stories about positive ETs trying to help us, and to also know about the negative side. But just be wary or be wise about how far you dive in to all of this, because there are ramifications. Once you get a certain part of this phenomenon's attention, it follows you home and it becomes a part of you and your family's life. And it's not always the positive. Sometimes it's the negative, but it is not easy to get rid of. Trust me.
Isn't that why Bob Bigelow sold Skinwalker Ranch? I heard that he was followed home by something, and just what you said happened. Very hard to get rid of. And Bob was like, let me sell this ranch, like right now. So, yeah.
Do you think that some of this was ongoing before Eisenhower's period of time?
Oh, yeah. It's been going on since we've been on the planet.
So different times, different things that have taken place in history. So the figures in the pie, shall we say, of some of these things that have happened.
Yes, they appeared to us as the ancient Greek and Roman gods. It's been interacting with us in different ways. It was the spirits of the forest, the elementals, and all of, as we have evolved, so has the way it interacts with us. Now, we've become technological and we're focused on outer space. So it is very happy to appear to us flying around in spaceships and appearing as and claiming to be a creature from another planet, when most of the time what we're dealing with It's this non-human intelligence. It's a plasma type of entity when it comes into our existence. There's 4 states of matter. Plasma is the closest state of matter that can transfer dimensions easily. It'll transfer to our dimension as a plasma entity consciousness, and it can turn into a helicopter. It can turn into an F-16. It can turn into a flying saucer. It can turn into a triangle. It can whatever it wants, and can physically be that. It is so mind-boggling. But what we're dealing with, when we see a ship, it might be a ship while we're looking at it, but that's just how it's changing the way it interacts with us. It's really bizarre.
For some reason, I was thinking of the American Indian when they have had these different entities that have come. It sounds almost like they were instrumental in dealing with some of this.
One of the families being studied by the government that I've spoken to lives on a reservation, and most of the people that are interacting with this thing live close to a mountain, and the mountain has lore around it. It has a city in it, an ancient civilization in it, or there's some story. And usually what the real story is that there are hundreds of these non-human intelligences that some people believe are the fallen angels, depending on who you talk to or whatever. And they install themselves like electrically charged entities into the mountain, and they inhabit the mountain, and they're projecting outside all of these different things out. And each of these mountains, the entities that inhabit them have different personalities. They're not all, you can't go from one place to the other and know exactly what to expect, because some of them are you have real positive, high vibe kind of feelings around. Others are very dark. A lot of these entities were the ones who encouraged human sacrifice with the Mayans and those types of things, and fed all of that. And they're very dark and evil. So we have those as well.
Yeah, we don't want those around.
No.
I'll pass on that one. But Corey, this has been so great talking with you tonight. And
Definitely.
I want to encourage everybody to go to your website. Is that the best place to keep track of everything you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, we have Ascension Works TV. We're doing a lot of cool content there. AscensionWorks.tv. My site, CoreyGoode.com, has some, but we're putting a lot at DisclosureComics.com. We're doing a novel we have nearly 30 chapters written that we're doing a scripted television show over, and we have some big stars involved and writers. And the graphic novel has changed. It has been converted to a web comic. And we have a number of unscripted projects. The Corey Goode, the Beyond Disclosure, the Corey Goode Files is out now this week. It also comes out on Apple TV and Google Plus. And then we just shot a television series, and it should be out in April or May. And then next year, I'm shooting 2 more television series.
What do you do in spare time?
For 5 years, Patricia heard me lamenting, something's blocking me. And, my reputation was being destroyed, all these horrible things. And now it's like someone flipped a switch. I have all of these really interesting people in the business that are coming to me and wanting to work with me. Awesome opportunities are opening up. It's super exciting.
That is so marvelous. Congratulations, Corey. Well, keep in touch with us. Now, this is our last show for the year.
That's right.
So we're going out with a bang here with you, Corey. This is great. Great information. Stuff. Yes.
Happy New Year for sure.
Yes, happy Hanukkah. Happy New Year. 1
year all about new beginnings.
Yes, we will start again. We'll be back.
Oh, definitely be happy for that.
Yes.
You've got a full boatload of great things happening, Corey.
Yes, you do.
That's
It's
great.
wonderful. Thank you for sharing everything with us tonight. We really appreciate it. And so everybody keep track of Corey. He's doing some cool stuff, and be
Yes,
sure
he
to
is.
Yes. And we will be back at the beginning of the year. Can't believe I'm
Lord
saying
willing, yes.
with another great show. And until then, everybody, we will see you on the Blue Highway. Good night.
Good night.